Alright, so today I basically wanted to go over my clothing list. This is all the stuff that I used at one point or another for deer hunting last fall, and I just wanted to go kind of garment by garment, separated by base layers, mid layers, outer garments, accessories, and just say what I liked, what I didn't like, what the stuff cost brand new, and then after we get through all that, I'll just kind of go over how I layer all of this stuff. And if there was something else that I were to add, I'll talk about that as well. So let's start off with base layers. I pretty much only use 100% merino wool next to skin layers. Anything that isn't 100% merino, I've basically gotten rid of by this point. I have one bottom and two tops. So for the bottom, I have the First Light Allegheny. It's a 230 gram, so kind of a mid-weight. I bought it in the Fusion Camel because they had it on sale as kind of a post-season thing. Normally I would get something like this as a solid color to save a few extra bucks, but it ended up being cheaper to buy the camo. I got it in size medium, which fits my legs well in terms of width. This particular garment is a bit short though. Granted, these are a couple years old. I don't know if that was just something that was on a particular batch where they ran short, or if I just need to start ordering a size large for these. For the tops, I have a First Light Chama because of the Realtree camo pattern I got on sale a few years ago. Again, it's one of those 230 gram merino options. It's a nice middle layer. I also have another layer for upper body. This one's from Cabela's, but the equivalent now would be Cabela's Instinct Men's Base Layer Thermal Zone Half Zip Top by Icebreaker. Looks like they sell them for between $110 to $160. I know I didn't pay that much when I bought this one. What makes this top layer unique is that it has different weights of merino throughout the garment. So it'll have like lighter merino toward like the armpits, heavier toward the torso. And the other thing I like about this one, it's a size large, but I like the length. So if you look at where this one rests on my waist, it comes down a little bit further than the First Light one did. Granted, once again, the First Light one is a size medium, the Cabela's is a size large. I'm sure that's a large portion of it, but both of these garments do fit my waist relatively the same. So I like the fit of this one a little bit better. However, I think for comfort-wise, the First Light one is a little bit more comfortable. The seams seem a little bit smoother. Not that this one is like itchy at all, but if I had to choose one or the other, this one would be a little bit more comfortable. Transitioning from next to skin layers to insulating layers, I've used down in the past, and what I used last fall pretty much the entire time was fleece, and I preferred that. So this is kind of a lighter option, just a standard quarter zip fleece. This one I got from Ducks Unlimited from one of their mail-in offers. There's nothing really special about it other than it's tan, so if I wanted to use this as a solid, I could, and not have to have any camo over the top. It doesn't breathe particularly well, meaning if you had like an expensive tech fleece, that would probably breathe a little bit better. But for my use, any old standard fleece is going to be pretty much fine. I can walk in either with this thing off, or I can have it zipped all the way down just to kind of regulate the temperature a little bit better. If I want to go a step up from that in terms of warmth, then I'll go to this Cabela's set. These are the Stand Hunter fleeces, and I really, really like these things. New, this one's about 130 bucks, this one's about 120 bucks. I bought them both from the Bargain Cave for around $55 or $60 a piece, which was a steal. However, I like these things so much that I think even at the normal prices, I would consider buying them. The nice thing about the pants, I believe they're Polartec Thermal Pro as well as the tops, but they fit well, and they have an elastic band at the bottom. So once you put them on, you start to put on your outer garments, start walking around, they don't slide up your legs at all, which is a nice feature to have. And they're super soft, quiet, and just extremely warm. Breathability isn't the best. If I like, out of all the garments that I have on, outer layer, base layer, those insulating layers, that's kind of the layer where if I'm wearing those in a long walk in, that's a layer that'll kind of start to collect the sweat and not breathe quite as well. But a lot of times it's worth it just for the trade-off of the warmth. For the upper body, this garment is the exact same in terms of what it's comprised out of. This one, however, is a long version, which I really liked. I didn't really need the long version to fit my body, but I'll put this on quick. The advantage of having the long fleece top is that when I tuck this thing in, it does not come untucked, which is a huge benefit for me, because especially if I'm trying to wear this thing to stay warm, I don't want that little breeze coming into my backside. One other nice thing about these garments is they are a pretty friendly solid color, so if I wanted to take off a jacket or something like that, if I got a little bit warm and I just wanted to wear this as my outer layer in the tree stand, I'd be completely fine with this. And that's pretty much it for what I use for base layer and kind of mid layer. So we can go on to outerwear now. Here are the pants that I pretty much wore the entire last fall. Wore them for scouting this spring, wore them turkey hunting this spring. I absolutely love them. They're from the Cabela's Instinct line. They're the stocking pants. I like the camel pattern with that new octane. It's got a nice macro pattern, which I think is more important for deer than micro patterns. They are comprised of 92% nylon, 8% spandex, so you got that nice four-way stretch. That was a huge selling point for me because number one, they're really comfortable. It's like you're wearing sweatpants in the woods. And number two, they make you a lot more mobile. So crawling under a deadfall is no big deal if you're trying to get along into a new area. The other thing where it comes in handy is if you're trying to really space out your climbing sticks to get some extra height on the tree, there's no binding as you're trying to climb up those climbing sticks. They have knee scuff guards that are 64% nylon, 36% Kevlar. In terms of overall toughness, I mean, I've taken these things through a lot of stuff that would tear up even my blue jeans, and you can see there's a little bit of pilings on kind of the lower parts of the nylon in the pant, and a couple of little scuffs in the knee pads, but there's no tears and no holes. And again, I've taken this through some really rough stuff, so I'd be surprised at this point if they were pristine. That would be unbelievable. For the waistband, they do got some silicone in there, so they make it easy for your shirts to stay tucked in. In terms of what you could maybe compare these to, since I know a lot of you guys don't have Cabela's nearby, the First Light Corrugate Guide has a very similar nylon and spandex construction with that four-way stretch. Some of the main differences is that the First Light don't have the scuff pads in the front, and they taper down a little bit narrower on the ankle. These ones are much more regular width all the way down. Noise, you can maybe hear this in the microphone right now. It's not the most quiet garment in the world, especially when you compare it to a fleece. However, I found that in actual use, it wasn't as big of a concern as I thought it would be. And I never had a single experience where I thought that I may have spooked the deer because of the noise made by the pants. For the pockets, they have one rear pocket, they have your two standard front pockets, and they have two cargo pockets. The cargo pockets are, again, that four-way stretch, so you can fit larger objects than you would assume into these pockets. However, I think I would still prefer a design of the pocket where you had extra fabric that was just sewn and folded flat, so when you stuck something in, they just kind of expanded rather than needing to stretch. I think it makes it a little bit easier to actually stick stuff in and out of the pockets. These pants also have a DWR finish, so the water's gonna beat up and kind of fall off, but they're definitely not waterproof. I did make one modification to them, which was I added buttons on the inside for suspenders. If I'm wearing pants and a belt, and then I got my saddle harness over the top, that's basically like another belt over the belt, and it's not extremely comfortable. So by basically getting rid of the belt around the pants, I'm able to tighten down my saddle harness, my rock harness, a little bit tighter, and it's going to remain a little bit more comfortable. They are retailing for $129.99. It looks like right now they're on sale for $64.88, depending on what size you get. They're in limited stock right now, so I'm assuming they probably only made a smaller batch to test these out, and they're either going to discontinue them after this or they're going to order some more and restock. So hopefully they keep making some more because I really like these pants. Probably the same pants I'm going to bring out to Colorado this fall. For the jacket, I didn't buy this jacket until well into the season, so I only got a few uses out of it. It's the First Light Woodbury jacket. I've been very impressed with this jacket. It's extremely comfortable, and it's extremely soft and extremely quiet. The inside is smooth, so it doesn't catch on your base layers when you're trying to put it on. They have pockets in a lot of good locations. Got a front pocket here. This is kind of the pocket that I always use for my cell phone pocket. You got a side pocket right here. And then in terms of your normal jacket pockets, you got options. So they either have pockets that you can just kind of fold out of the way and stick your hands right in. And then on the inside, they have draw cords for the waistbands. So if you look for the draw cords, they're not on the inside of the jacket, they're actually inside these pockets. So they stay out of the way a little bit more. Right, so that's kind of neat. But then in addition to these pockets that my hands are in right now, you can see right in front of them, there's zippered pockets. So they're basically one right in front of the other. Just gives you a little bit of extra room so you don't necessarily have to have hand warmer pockets that are also in the same pocket where you could potentially lose something out of if you don't have it zipped up, which is kind of nice. The sleeves I think are very comfortable. They're not overly constricting. The hood is comfortable. They call this their, I think their turret hood system. Right, like I can move my head left and right and it doesn't necessarily obscure my vision, which is nice. The hood kind of moves with you just enough. This is the first jacket that I really had where it came up this far on my neck. And one thing that I noticed is that in the past, a lot of times I like to keep my jacket open like this. But if I have this particular jacket open like that, what happens is when I draw the bow back, the string interferes right here. So I've needed to make sure to have this thing zipped up all the way and then it's not a problem. It was just something that took a little bit of getting used to. Now that hood is removable. This jacket also has a pass-through for your safety harness, which is nice. My last jacket didn't have that feature. This isn't overly constricting at all. I have good shoulder mobility, no issues drawing back the bow or anything like that. And again, just the finish and the feel of this jacket I really, really like. It's very similar to the garment that I'm going to go over next, which is the Sanctuary pants. It's basically the same thing as the Sanctuary jacket, there's just less insulation. So they kind of wanted this to be a garment where whitetail hunters could use it as more of a mid-season instead of just a late-season garment. One other last neat kind of feature about this jacket is that on the back side, you got the kidney warmer pocket. You got another pocket here on the inside. So if you like to really stay warm, you can take one of those big pouch hand warmers, just stuff it in there, zip it up, and it's going to keep your kidney region warm. In the past, I've always just kind of taken the stick-on ones and just stuck it onto my base layers. That works too, but it was just kind of nice to see that they incorporated that feature into their jacket. For cost, this jacket's going to retail at $325. Definitely not cheap. You don't need them to be successful. You don't need them to kill a deer, but they're a lot more comfortable. They have a lot more useful features. It's kind of one of those things where I spend enough time in the woods that I'm willing to want to spend a little bit more money to get a jacket that I'm going to get more enjoyment out of. Also, I got that jacket for 40% off. I joined a First Lights program where they work with people that are in the industry and get feedback on their garments, and you get 40% off. That being said, if you buy at the right times, you can usually find a lot of this First Light stuff for much cheaper than retail. I know Midway USA, just this past early spring, winter, had some extremely good deals, probably around 40% off. First Light always has their Tag Soup sale after the season where they give stuff off for 30-40% off. So there's definitely options for getting big discounts on a lot of this stuff. Bargain Cave is always a great place to look for cabelas. So after the Woodbury jacket, the next thing I want to go over is the Sanctuary bibs. So these bibs are fairly bulky, but they are extremely warm. They're made out of the same material as that Woodbury jacket was, it's just more insulating material in it. A couple of things that I like about it are that the inner fabric is very smooth, so it's not going to bind or catch when you're trying to put this on over your other layers. The outer layer is extremely quiet, extremely soft to the touch, smooth. The way that the zippers are set up in the back are such that you have essentially full-length zippers that go down the entire length, but then they also even go all the way around the backside. So it's kind of more than full-length zippers. But that also does give you some more options in terms of how you want to vent when you're walking in. So like instead of walking in with your pants normally just open like that, I can zip these things down, put a heavy gaiter, like a snow gaiter, over the top of them. Right, so now I can vent from the top so I don't overheat walking in, but I can still leave those pant legs enclosed at the bottom. So it's just nice to have options in that regard. For pockets, you got, kind of similar to how the Woodbury is set up, you got the zippered pocket, and then just adjacent to the zippered pocket you have pockets that are just elastic. So if I want to have something in these zippered pockets I don't want to fall out, I can leave those zipped up. And I got my jacket on over the top, so I can't really reach anything in here anyway. But I can just dip my hands into here for extra hand warmer pockets if I want them. You have around your waist an extra waistband. It allows you to really cinch this thing tight. Makes your upper body seem a lot less bulky when you put on your extra layers, which is nice. The zippers on this thing are all very well put together. Nice suspender straps. The one place where these pants do not have as quiet of a fabric is on this back panel here. Basically from here down to the back of your knees, it's all waterproof material, which is kind of a blessing and a curse. It's nice if you're going into a tree stand that had some snow on the seat, or you're going in to sit on a log, you brush that snow off, it's still kind of icy there. You sit down, it starts to warm up from your body heat, it starts to melt, makes the seat wet. Then you're not going to have any issues with wet butt because you got that waterproof panel. Where it's not quite as handy is it is a little bit noisier if you're trying to move around on the seat. So basically if you were to just stand straight up, there's no noise. But I had an instance like last fall where I had a little 6-point buck come in and bat about 30 yards away from me. And after about 40 minutes of not moving, I needed to move. So I would just kind of, just kind of wiggle around just to get some blood flow back in my legs, and just sometimes that little bit of noise that you could hear against the seat, like that deer would pick his head up, couldn't quite tell what he heard, if he had heard anything or not, so he would go back to sleep, move a little bit more, he'd do the same thing, put his head up. So you could definitely hear it, but I think it's one of those things where if you know about it and you're just making the minimal amount of noise, it's not a deal breaker by any means. They're definitely nice bibs. The price for these bibs new is $345. Definitely not cheap by any means. I got these 40% off, just like I got the jacket 40% off. Again, if you shop at the right time of year, you can find a pretty similar deal for yourself, even without that industry discount. What you could probably get for a similar price if you really only just do tree stand hunting is something like an IWAM or a heater bodysuit, something like that. I know a lot of guys that use those type of systems and they really like them. For me personally, I looked pretty hard into getting something like that versus the bibs, and what it came down to for me was just overall versatility. I didn't want to have to deal with any extra movements trying to get exposed so I could get to my camera, get to my bow. I got enough things to worry about with those two things anyway. I didn't want to have to worry about having to move my feet around on the platform. And then if I didn't want to hunt out of a tree stand, I can pretty much use this wherever. I can walk into the stand wearing this if I want to, if it's not too long of a walk, just with the venting options. Or I can roll them up and attach them onto the back of the stand to walk in like you would with a heater bodysuit or an IWAM. Definitely a nice piece of gear though. It's very well thought out, very comfortable, very warm. And then just in terms of sizing for all this First Light stuff and all this cabela stuff, it seems like for cabelas, I'm mostly a large for a lot of things. For First Light, I'm mostly a medium for just about everything that I get from them, with the exception of, I think, the base layer bottoms. I think I'd be better off with a large for those, just in terms of how they fit with the length. For optional additional camouflage, I got the Phantom Leafy Jacket and the Phantom 3D Balaclava from First Light. It's basically just a leafy suit using their Fusion Camo, which has a nice macro pattern. A lot of the leafy suits and ghillie suits you see, it's kind of more macro pattern based, so that by the time you get 40 yards away, it ends up looking like a blob anyway. This one, I think, is a lot better of having a pattern that stands out even as you get further and further away, which I think is important for deer hunting. Just looking at some of the video footage for me last fall and even the spring turkey hunting, it really does a nice job in a lot of different environments of getting you to blend in. The material on this is light enough that even the lightest breeze will start to get this fabric moving. There's nothing particularly special about the garment itself. It's not a high-tech fabric or anything like that. If you walk through a burr patch, you'll pick up burrs pretty easily with this stuff with the mesh. But it's basically just the additional camouflage. Not necessary, doesn't hurt. I'll probably potentially keep on wearing this for turkey hunting, not necessarily for deer hunting. Unless I'm hunting on the ground, then I would probably continue to wear those. But for tree stand hunting, I definitely don't think it's necessary. One thing I haven't really mentioned yet is any kind of wetness performance or rain gear. That's because I don't do a lot of hunting when it's particularly rainy. One, because of the camera gear. Two, because it's hard to track in those kind of conditions. But I do have this Cabela Space Rain jacket. It's a very lightweight fabric, packs down fairly small. And this is not a type of material that you would want to wear bushwhacking through some heavy stuff in wet weather. It's probably going to rip and tear a little bit more easily. But what this kind of jacket is going to be suited very well for is you don't plan on rain, but if it does rain, you put the jacket on, you sit out the rain, you take it off afterwards, you put it away. And that's pretty much about the greatest extent of rain use that I'll get. If I knew I was going someplace where I was going to encounter a lot of wet weather and I was going to be doing a lot of traveling, then I would probably just go with a completely different set of rain gear, something that's a little bit more heavy duty. For Blaze Orange, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for me to get a nice technical piece of gear and spend a lot of money on it because I already have all this nice bow hunting gear, and the only real purpose that the Blaze Orange is going to serve is just to be Blaze Orange and serve as a visual indicator. So for my jacket, where I hunt, it's pretty much always legal to just have a vest. So I bought this fleece from, I believe, Fleet Farm for probably under $20, and I just cut the sleeves off to turn it into a vest. And for the hat, this is just a 100% acrylic hat. Blaze Orange, nothing special, probably paid around $10 for this thing. So now we start talking a little bit more about the accessory side of things. I'd mentioned before that I added buttons to my Cabela's stocking pants for suspenders. The suspenders I got were a pretty cheap brand from Cabela's. They just have the leather attachment points. I hadn't done really a whole lot of research about suspenders, but I kind of wanted something that might be a little bit more robust than something that just clipped onto belt loops or just snapped onto the top of my pants. For hats, for really hot weather, I just got a ball cap. This is something where I probably paid less than $10 for this at a place like Fleet Farm. It's got a nice mesh, so it's really going to be useful in warm weather. Step up from the ball cap, and I got two merino wool options. One is the 100% merino wool visor beanie from Numa Outdoors, and the other one is the tag cuff merino beanie from First Light in their new Cypher camo. In terms of overall weight, the Numa one is a little bit heavier weight than the First Light. Even though merino wool is very good at regulating temperature and wicking moisture, I would say, like, for example, this Numa Outdoors beanie is still more of a mid-weight hat if it's much warmer than, say, like 60 degrees. I'll flip that cuff up, and if I'm walking in and I'm getting extremely warm, sometimes I'll still just raise the hat up on top of my head until I get where I'm going, and then pop it back down. But one of the things that I like about this visor beanie, one, with the short brim, I'm able to draw back my traditional bow and not have to worry about the string coming into contact here. The other thing I like about this one over like the First Light visor beanie, which I also had at one point and lost, is that this cuff fully covers my ears and the back of my neck. So if I want to have better hearing first or the last light, I can always flip it up. But if it's getting cold, I can pop this thing down and I get a lot better coverage and a lot better warmth overall. Even though this hat doesn't come in a camouflage, it's just kind of this brownish olive color, I still end up wearing this thing more than any of my other hats. Just because of the way it feels, it fits extremely well. If I wanted to add something on top of that, I could always add the First Light beanie on top for a little bit of extra warmth. I have a cheap acrylic windstopper beanie that I also have as an option that I could just throw on top of this thing. That one really cuts down on my hearing. I also have some balaclavas. I have the Wind River balaclava from First Light, 100% merino wool. This one I wore pretty much every hunt last year. It's 200 weight, so kind of a mid-weight merino. But one of the nice things about this balaclava is that you actually have ear holes, so it makes it a little bit easier to hear. If I pull this thing down underneath my chin, it's not like it's trying to clothesline me at all. It's still very comfortable. I can pop this thing down, put it back over top of my head, wear this thing underneath my nose, over the top of my nose, and it's pretty much comfortable no matter where I have it. So this was kind of my alternative. Instead of getting a Chama First Light upper layer that had the hood included, I'm able to wear this and it just gives me a little bit better versatility. If it gets really cold, I'm not too concerned about hearing, like if there's a really crunchy snow layer or if it's during gun season. I also have this Tundra balaclava from First Light. This one, instead of being 100% merino wool like their Wind River balaclava, this one's actually a mix. It's got a soft shell outer, which is a little bit noisier of a fabric. It's got a merino face mask, so it doesn't, it transfers the moisture a lot better from your breath. And then on the inside, it's lined with a Sherpa fleece. And when I put this thing on, it is extremely warm. The only downside to me is that it's a little bit more noisy of a soft shell material, but that's gonna come really nice and handy if it's gonna be like snowing or sleeting and you can't hear quite as well. But then again, if I was wearing something where I could hear well, it wouldn't be as warm. So you kind of give and take with that. Prices for all those hat options. So for the Numa Outdoors visor beanie, that merino wool one, that one's $38. The Tundra cold weather balaclava from First Light retails for $60. The Wind River merino balaclava from First Light retails for $40. And the tag cuff merino beanie retails for $40. For gloves, for the longest time, I used this pair from Under Armour. I can't even remember the model of these because they're so old, but they had a nice tacky leather palm, synthetic outer. I cut off a lot of the fingers so I can use them in my traditional archery tab, and they just overall had holes worn in them pretty much everywhere. And I decided it was time for a new pair of gloves. Being pretty happy with a lot of the stuff that I had from First Light already, I got these hybrid gloves from First Light. They have a goatskin palm as well as a merino wool backer. Very comfortable, a lot of dexterity. Sometimes I can get this thing to work on my cell phone. Most of the times I can't. That's one of the downsides. I kind of would like a glove at this point that I could just use with 100% compatibility with my smartphone, but that's kind of picking hairs. A little bit expensive at $70 retail. I got them from $42 from Midway USA on one of their sales, but I mean, even those Under Armour ones, if I remember right, weren't that cheap either. For kind of this nice merino wool that's going to be nice and breathable, combined with the goatskin leather. So far I've been very happy with them. They seem that they're going to be pretty durable gloves. Those I pretty much wear throughout the season, and if it gets too cold, the first thing I'll do is I'll just have hand warmers in the pockets. If it gets too cold for that, I'll go to the Cabela's muff. It's got thin slate insulation. I believe it's the MT50 hand warmer muff. And what I like about this is that it's very easy to put your hands in because of the structure. I know a lot of times with the cheaper muffs, you'll try and stick your gloved hand in, it'll just kind of fold over, you can't stick it in, you end up needing to use your other hand to help get your hand in, and then you're kind of at a loss for this side. But this one, it's been very easy. It's also got, if you look at the inside, a very soft to the touch, warm to the touch, nice high pile fleece. And we have this zippered pocket on the front that you can put in your hand warmer pouches. I've also been using this Zippo hand warmer pretty successfully. I'm a big fan of that so far. I can always put it inside of the muff as well to have a little bit more immediate warmth. Of course, if I'm using this, I don't start it up in the woods. This is something I'll start up in the truck before I head out. For socks, I pretty much just use merino wool blend socks. Just one pair. I never really used liners. I haven't really had any issues with blisters. I have these kind of lighter, medium weight hiking socks. One pair is from Fitz, one is from Lorpen. I have a few pairs of each of these that I'll just kind of switch in and out. And if it gets really cold, then sometimes I'll add in a heavier wool sock to put over the top if I have the room in my boots. A couple other pairs of socks I just bought this year to try out are these alpaca blend socks. If you listen to the people that make these things, essentially they have a lot of the similar benefits to merino, but since the alpacas are more acclimated to living in a colder climate, they're going to be a little bit warmer for the same amount of weight. That's because they have more of a hollow fiber, so they trap more air inside the fiber than the merino wool would. I just have to see yet if they're going to be as durable as the merino wool socks, but looking forward to trying them out. So now we can jump into boots. My early season boots are these Cabela's Mindel ultralight boots. Probably the most comfortable pair of boots I've ever worn. They're starting to get pretty worn down now. I'm not sure how many more seasons these will last before I need to buy a new pair, but I'll probably buy a new pair of the same ones just because I'm afraid that if I buy another pair of boots, they're not going to be as comfortable as these things. They're waterproof on the bottoms, so I'm able to use them in combination with gaiters and stay pretty waterproof for most creek crossings. I wear these things out to Colorado, I wear them turkey hunting, I wear them scouting, I wear them deer hunting in early season. Big fan of these boots. These are kind of my mid-season boots right now just because of the 800 gram Thinsulate. These are Lacrosse Alpha Burley. Pros, they're waterproof, they are extremely durable, and they're pretty warm. Cons, they're very heavy, especially in relation to those last pair of boots that I just showed, and they don't breathe at all. So if you're doing a lot of walking, these things will just fill up with sweat. If it gets really cold, I'll break out these Cabela's pack boots. They're the Predator boots, 1200 gram Thinsulate. They got these nice insulated inserts in them. They're a lot bigger boots. So like for the same size boot, if you compare it to the Mindel Ultralight, look at the size difference. They're also a lot stiffer, so they're not quite as easy to be stealthy with or walk around through super rough terrain. But they're very warm, and for me, having warm feet is going to keep me out on stand longer. So I'll usually break these things out a lot earlier than maybe a lot of people would because I tend to have cold feet and cold hands. If it's below 20-25 degrees, I'm probably going to be wearing these boots. But again, they're pretty durable. I've worn these now for probably 5-6 years, and they show very little signs of use. I also wear these things ice fishing quite a bit. There's one last accessory that I haven't gone over yet, and that's the gaiter. This is the Kudu Yukon gaiter. It is a 4-way stretch, breathable, waterproof fabric, and it form fits very tightly around your calf and your boot. So that means that even for like shallow stream crossings, I can wear this over a boot like this and not get my leg wet, even if the water's up to here. That makes it, in my mind, much more beneficial than having an uninsulated rubber boot that's going to be a little bit heavier, doesn't breathe at all, and doesn't fit as nicely around your foot and your ankle. The only time I would still actually stay with a boot like this is if I know that the vast majority of my walking is going to be through water. Then I just like the little bit of extra added peace of mind. A couple other times when these things are nice, other than just like creek crossings, are one, if you're going through a lot of really thick, gnarly underbrush, the kind of stuff that's going to rip apart your pants. You know, like even these pants, some of the stuff that I've walked through that kind of gets the threads to lift up a little bit. If I wear these gaiters over the top, they seem to be a lot tougher than even the pants are. And those have been pretty resilient pants so far. The other time when having these is nice is if you're walking through an early morning dew. A lot of times if you're not wearing gaiters or waterproof pants, your pants are going to be soaked by the time you get to wherever you're going. Whereas these will wick away a lot of that moisture before it ever gets to your pants. In fact, the reason I bought these things in the first place was when I was out in Colorado and we'd have to walk through a lot of grassy meadows and over a lot of deadfall before we'd get to our morning spots, and my pant legs would just be soaked. Like, they're pretty much wet the entire trip except for maybe a couple afternoons where we had full sun. And with something like this, it pretty much all but eliminates that problem. Those gaiters are $70 new, and in my mind, they were well worth that purchase price. So as far as boots and gaiters go, like I said, I prefer a gaiter and a good hiking boot over a rubber boot for most scenarios. I know Cabela's in the last couple of years has come out with a boot called the Lockdown that combines a low top hiking boot with a retractable, waterproof, breathable gaiter. So for something like that and like an 800 or 1200 gram Thinsulate, I could potentially see myself using that to replace a boot like this. Granted, this one's got a few more years. It's got probably several years of use left before it really becomes broken down to the point where it would ever need to be replaced. It would just kind of be more of a comfort upgrade if I ever made that decision. So now let's talk layering. If it's early season It's warm. For my lower body, I'm just wearing these pants and a pair of socks and the boots. If it's a little bit cooler, I'll go ahead and add in the merino underneath that. And if it's cooler yet, I'll add the Cabela's Polar Tech Stand Hunter Fleece. And this gets me down to probably 20, 25, 30 degrees-ish when I'm staying on a tree stand not moving. Any colder than that, I'll go ahead and wear the Sanctuary bibs. For upper body, when it's early season, I'll just wear one single merino top and that'll be it. If it's a little bit cooler, I'll wear the second one, so I get basically double weight merino top. If it's cooler than that, I can add in the fleece. If it's cooler than that, I'll wear the other fleece instead. I'll ditch that one, I'll wear this one. And then pretty much about that same level, I can also just ditch this and wear the Woodbury. Cooler than that, I can add this back in. And I'm telling you, with both of these merino layers, this Cabela Stand Hunter Fleece, this Woodbury jacket, combined with that Sanctuary bib, I haven't gotten cold yet, and I've been down to about 0 degrees in the tree stand. So I'm not even sure if I would ever need to get like a Sanctuary top. Well, I hope you found this video helpful. I'm sure there's probably some stuff that I missed, so if you have any additional questions about any of the particular garments or my layering system in general, just ask them in the comments down below. I'll do my best to answer them. If you did find this information helpful, please click like, share, and make sure you subscribe to my channel so you get notifications when I do upload more videos on DIY, hunting, fishing, or gear reviews.